Today we're going to be looking at the Mossberg 590. Today we're going to be looking at the Mossberg 590. Alright, now let's disassemble the shotgun. So first things first, make sure it's safe. Nothing in the chamber, mag, chamber, we're good. I do a 3-point check. It's just chamber, mag well chamber, or in this case chamber, tube chamber. So you basically take off the end nut right there. That's a barrel clamp. If you had your forend all the way forward, you can still take off the barrel, but it's going to meet some resistance right here. These are going to be pinched together and slide. It's kind of hard. If I had it back here, where my chamber, where my crown, so basically the chamber's fat and it goes skinny. It's going to hit and make some interference here as well. So if I pull it, I can push through it. Not a big deal. But the best thing to do, pull back a little tiny bit. Free it up here, free it up here. Barrel comes right off, and you're done. Now with the barrel off, we have the receiver to take apart. It's pretty simple. It comes out with one pin. You just take a punch, push it there. Once that's out, trigger's going to come out, and two pieces, interrupter and cartridge stop. Let me show you how that works. So when you take this trigger assembly out, it's going to be one piece, one unit. You take a punch, you push it on this pin right here, and then it's going to be able to come out. So you would just take it, put your finger on it or hold it, so you don't lose it. Once that pin's out, this is ready to come out now. It comes out sort of like an AK-47 magazine. It goes in and clicks down, or you push it down and put the pin through it. So in this case, we're gonna lift the back up and then come on out. This is one unit, one piece. Nothing's gonna come apart out of here. There's little pins in here that would have to walk inches out in order to get this thing to fall apart. Anyway, just take it like this and leave it as one unit. Now there are two things inside here. Well, let me show you. So there's two things in here that are loose. This is your cartridge stop, and this is your interrupter, which is pretty much the same exact thing as a cartridge stop. I mean, they look similar, they do different things, but when you take that trigger assembly out, the biggest problem and the worst thing that can happen is those would fall on the ground. They're not too small. I mean, you can't really lose them. Even in carpet, you can find these things. So this is the only thing you got to be worried about. Not a big problem. So don't be afraid to get in the trigger assembly, take it out, and then have something fall out. It's not going to be hard to fix. Pretty simple. So if I'm at this stage in the game and I'm taking my trigger assembly out, the only thing that I have to be worried about at this point is going to be the cartridge stop and the interrupter falling out. That's it. No small pins, no tiny springs, nothing. So when this comes out, let me show you. It's going to go out. Those pieces could fall free, well, fall loose. Now I got to go find them. But those two pieces are the only things. So aside from that, feel free to get into this gun and take it apart. It's not like a complicated gun like a SIG or something like that. It's fairly easy. So now that that's apart, you have your bolt, or your bolt group, I guess you'd say. The bolt group consists of two separate pieces. You have your bolt, or carrier on the bolt. Then you have right here, which is the bottom plate that holds the forend and the bolt together. So this one, there's a slot right here. See how these kind of open up right here? Those are a relieving slot for this to come out. You want to line it up, and this is going to rise through that slot. See? Set that aside. And that's pretty much it. Now with that gone, your forend just got released, and your bolt is now ready to come out. Bolt just goes out the front. Now the only thing from here is going to be your lifter right here. Well, this is kind of a cool one too. Let me show you something. So here's the safety on the Mossberg 500. On, off. Ready to shoot, can't shoot. So this safety is the key to removing this cartridge lift, or lifter. Let me show you real quick. Put that upside down. Looking in this, the safety right there moves back or stays forward. There we go. This gate has to squeeze in like tongs. They would squeeze in and then come out of the little slots they have down there. So this one can't squeeze and work its way out. That's because the safety is not on. You have to have the safety on in order to get this to relieve itself so that you can take it out. So to put the safety on, flick it back, squeeze, take out. And you're pretty much done with your trigger assembly, well, with your receiver. Now you can take the tube off. I wouldn't. I would leave the tube on. You don't need to take it off in a shotgun. This is pretty much as far as you would go. This is the field strip and complete disassembly. I'll show you how to take apart the rest of it if you like. Alright, on the Mossberg 500 tube, 590, 590A1, whatever, there's a little tiny slit in here. All you do is you put your punch in, pry it out a little bit, and you're done. This is going to be the spring cap, and you see that slit? I just sort of put the punch in like this, pry it out, not going to hurt anything, it's fine. Spring comes out, and then you have your follower. Your follower looks like this. That's what goes in and pushes against the round to get it to go in chamber. This is pretty much it. If you wanted to take your tube off, which you don't, that's why you see red Loctite in a lot of bottom of these ones. But if you wanted to take your tube off, you would think that you would grab some pliers of some kind, grab it, and twist. This is going to hurt the tube. That's going to pinch the tube, ruin it, it's trash. There are stronger points in the tube you can grab onto, like this right here, and twist. Again, not something I recommend. What you would do to take the tube off is clamp it in a barrel, well, a vise of some kind, and then twist the receiver. So that's how you take off your tube. You don't need to. We're not going to in this point. It's just threaded in there. We're going to leave it on. But that's ultimately how you would do it if you wanted to do a full takedown. I don't know, maybe it got dinged up or bent or something. Other than that, that gun's ready to go back together. Alright, now, the Mossberg 500. You have your tube, and then you have your spring. Well, you have your tube, your spring, your follower, which is what pushes against the cartridge, and then you have an end cap. Now what this spring looks like is it's small, then it widens up, then it tapers back down to small again at the ends. Kind of a shitty design in my opinion. This gives you some problems with your standard Mossberg. Now you don't have to take my advice, but from what I've noticed about these guns, there's a small fix that I do every single 500, 590, or A1 that I own. I personally do this. This one here, when your end cap is in it, it has a hole in it and a little slit. Once your end cap's on, let's see, there's a hole. That spring, once it's under enough pressure, works its way out. So that spring kind of pops through and gets all bogus and caught up or so. So if you have a stock 500 or 590, any one of them, and you load up all 8 or 9 rounds, whichever one you got, you're going to break your spring. Chances are you're going to break your spring when you first get that. That's why that problem happens. So this end cap that has the hole, I take and I put a little cover inside that. That makes the spring not be able to work out because it's now blocked. And that cover is a nickel. Now there is something else you can do. The Mossberg 500 spring starts off thin and gets fatter. It stays fatter and then it goes back to thin. The Remington 870 spring is fat and stays the same exact diameter all the way down. So here and here are the same. If you put the 870 spring in the Mossberg 500, of course you'd have to have the same chamber length, or not chamber length, I'm sorry, magazine tube length, same, 12 gauge to 12 gauge, 20 gauge, 20 gauge, whatever the case. This has always worked for me. If not, I cover the hole with a nickel. A nickel's like perfect for diameter wise. I'll show you when I put this gun back together. This is what I do. You don't have to, but this is a good piece of advice I do to all my guns. I put a nickel inside the end cap. Here you have your follower. Goes in. Then you have the spring. And you see how the spring is fat and tapers down to small again? You put that in the tube. Then you take your end cap and put it through the end cap. Now let me see if I can simulate what's wrong with the Mossberg 500 spring stock. As you put it back in and you get it all in there, see how the spring's already starting to come out? I mean, the diameter in there, it just isn't something you want. So what I do is I take a nickel, cover it. Now no matter what, that spring is going to be locked in there with a cap. Can't work its way out no matter how much I load this and how much pressure that goes onto it. You are 100% rock solid. Everything else in the Mossberg 500 series, that platform, the 590, the A1, whatever, everything else is rock solid in this gun. This is the only problem I've ever really come across. Anyway, so you do that, or you, or not. Maybe it wouldn't happen to your gun, but just something I do to mine. Now when you put it back together, you have your bolt. Well, let me show you one more. You have your bolts. And then you have this guy right here. This is going to go and click on. That little slot is going to line up in this slot. It's going to go in and click. Now you also want this aligned into the rails in the receiver. These guys, they have their own rails they go into. And you want this one to be lined up like this. So when you put it in there, it's going to grab it. Now that it's grabbed it, you can actually work the shotgun. This bolt goes in pretty easily. Slide it in. And the only kind of alignment thing you got to worry about is lining it up with the actual ejector in there. There's a slot right here that ejector right here would slide into and actually push the round out of. So first, let's make sure our gun is on safe, otherwise it wouldn't function. Well, as far as putting this little bit back in. Let's squeeze this, put it back in its holes, and we're good. Now you take your bolt, put it in, line it up with that ejector right there. It's kind of dark and I know you can't see it, but you line that slot up. By lining it, you just push with your thumb and kind of finagle it in place. And you want to get it lined up to where this is pretty much going to drop into that slot again and hit right there. Now it doesn't have to be perfect, but let me move this really quick. It doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to be able to move it and work it around. But you'll get yourself about 90% there. These guys, they line up by pulling down and pushing them in. And then once you're in there, they have to go down again into their slot, you see? So you would push it down on both sides, left and right. Get them lined up, and now it moves forward. See how they're not in their slots? Move it down, now it's in its slot. So I want to put this in. I mean, there's no rule of thumb. Lots of people like to align it right here with that slot. If you look at this, it's kind of a good little guesstimate. So actually, I guess there is a rule of thumb. This would fall and hopefully line up on that. Now let's do it where it doesn't. Let's move this, I don't know, forward a little tiny bit, and let's leave that not lined up. Let's see where that gets us. I put this in, line it up in its slot, drop it. Didn't line up. It's okay. Push it forward, maybe put some pressure there, and pull this back a little bit. And you make it line up. Cool. Awesome. Well, maybe the bolt's not lined up a little bit. Well, maybe you gotta work it back and forth until they line up. Once this is lined up, once that's lined up, it'll move back and forth. It'll be able to go in whichever direction you want. Sorry the video's so chaotic right now. I don't exactly have a bipod. There we go, we're on. Anyway, it's in there and it's locked forward. Now we put these guys in. This is your cartridge stop and interrupter. Now both the curved positions, like this, go to the front, okay? You can install these backwards, there's nothing to worry about, but yeah, they both go to the front. This one goes on the right. Well, depending on how you hold the gun, I suppose. They kind of do their own thing. And this one has a little slot inside of it, so it goes over here. Pretty much put the one with the slot, and the other one goes on the other side. Pretty easy. Now, when I put the trigger assembly in, we're going to go in and down. Actually, right here. We're going to go in and down. So these guys, since they're free floating, are going to be floating in my way. So if I put it in, I'm going to catch them, it's going to break. Well, they're going to fall and jam everything up. So you want to do it with two hands, spread these apart, and now you can put the trigger assembly in. So with the trigger assembly, you want to take your hammer, lock it backwards. You don't want it up forward, it's not going to go in and you're going to have to rack it as you put it in. It's going to be a pain in the butt. Create a lot of unnecessary tension. Anywho, walk it back, hold these things apart, put it in, and push it down. Now see, there's a lip right here on both sides. That's what actually goes in the receiver. You see it right there? That's what goes under the receiver and grabs. And this goes back, and then the pin goes right here. So once you get these in, you're good. Push it back. Now it's not going to be a perfect fit. It might go in perfect every time. Who knows? So when you get it like this, just kind of wiggle it, work it down. You're done. Then you take your pin. Put it back in. And this gun is just about done. Remember your barrel, go back a little tiny bit. Put your barrel on. And then put the barrel nut or end cap nut back on. Functions check the weapon, and you're good to go. Now you would think there'd be some head spacing or something when you're talking about this gap right here, but nothing really. If you put the barrel together and you have a gap like a 1/4 inch or so, and it's not going in, something's not lining up. Probably the extractor. Anyway, something's not lining up. So you want to make sure that you get flush here, and you're good to go. That's all you have to worry about. Tighten the end cap down, and this shotgun is ready to go. That's your disassembly and breakdown on the entire gun as far as the 870 goes. And then there's other things like the shield you can just take off with a nut and a bolt. You know, not a big deal. Your stock comes off just like any other one. You take a screwdriver here and then you have a nice long, probably an Allen or a flathead. yeah, pretty simple. Your safety just comes off right here in the back, flathead. Looks like this one's made to not come off. They've actually taken that head, the Philister head, and they've rounded it. So this one they don't want you to take off the safety. But anyway, yeah, pretty simple. Good gun. It's not much to talk about, but it's filled with